Listen carefully, because this is not random, and this is not for everyone. This message found you for a reason. If you felt even the slightest pull to stop here, to pause, to listen, then understand, something has already shifted in the unseen. You didn't just stumble onto this. You were led. And what you're about to hear involves you more directly than you realize. There is someone connected to your life, someone whose heart, choices, and future have been circling around you, and they were recently brought into a moment of decision so intense, so final, that it echoed beyond the physical world. This was not a casual choice. This was not a passing thought. It was a line drawn in the spirit, a dividing point between what was and what could never be again. And here is where it becomes urgent. That person was given a choice, a final one. To walk away from you completely, to release you, to forget you, to let the connection dissolve into silence, or to step forward into something deeper, something binding, something aligned with purpose, something that resembles commitment, union, even marriage. There was no middle ground left. No more delay. No more confusion. Just a decision that would define everything. Now pause for a moment, because this is where most people miss what's really happening. You may have felt the distance. You may have sensed the hesitation, the inconsistency, the emotional push and pull. One moment they seemed close, the next they withdrew. That wasn't just indecision. That was pressure. Pressure building behind the scenes, in ways you could not see, forcing them toward this exact crossroads. And here's the truth you weren't told. While you were trying to make sense of the silence, while you were questioning your worth, wondering if you imagined the connection, there were unseen forces at work. Not imaginary, not dramatic, real influence shaping thoughts, amplifying fears, and testing intentions. It was a battle between two paths, the old path of fear, avoidance, and comfort, and the new path of truth, courage, and alignment. One path said, let them go. It's easier. It's safer. You won't have to change. The other path whispered, step forward. Choose them. Become who you were meant to be. And they had to choose. My beloved, this is why you felt restless. This is why your spirit hasn't been at ease. Because on a level deeper than logic, you were connected to that moment. You were part of that decision, whether you knew it or not. Let me ask you something. Have you felt a shift recently? A subtle change in energy? A quiet knowing that something is about to happen, even if you can't explain it? That is not your imagination. That is confirmation. If this resonates, if you feel this in your spirit, type, I am listening, in the comments. Not for me, but as a signal that you are aligned with what is being revealed. Because what happened next, what they chose, it didn't just affect them. It set something in motion that is now reaching you. And in the next part, you're going to understand why this decision was never just emotional, it was spiritual warfare unfolding behind the scenes. Now that you've felt the weight of that moment, let me take you deeper, because what you are sensing is not just emotion, it is spiritual alignment beginning to unfold. This is where doubt must fall away, because what is speaking over your life right now is not confusion, but clarity anchored in divine authority. My beloved, you are not unseen. You are not forgotten. And you have never been unprotected. There is a presence surrounding you even now, steady, unwavering, watchful. Not passive, not distant, but active. A guarding force that has stood between you and what could have broken you long before you even realized the danger was there. This is the kind of protection that does not always remove the battle, but ensures you are never defeated within it. You may have questioned the delays. You may have asked, why is this taking so long? Why does it feel like I am always waiting while others move forward? But hear this clearly, what felt like delay was not denial. It was preparation. It was positioning. It was the careful alignment of events, people, and timing that had to be exact. Because what is meant for you cannot be built on unstable ground. And there were things you could not see. There were moments when decisions were being influenced, when paths were being redirected, when outcomes were being held back, not to punish you, but to protect you. What you thought was silence was actually intervention. What you thought was distance was actually covering. This is where many lose faith. They interpret the quiet as absence. They interpret the waiting as rejection. But you are being called higher than that perception. You are being asked to trust what you cannot yet see. Let this settle into your spirit. If it were meant to harm you, it would have already happened. If it were meant to destroy you, you would not still be standing. The very fact that you are here, listening, aware, and still open, is proof that something greater has been sustaining you. And yes, there is a divine authority connected to this message. Not in a way that removes your free will, but in a way that confirms your direction. You are not being forced, you are being guided. There is a difference. Force creates fear. Guidance creates peace, even when you do not fully understand the path. You may feel it now, a subtle calm replacing the tension. A quiet knowing replacing the chaos. That is alignment beginning. But listen closely, this is your moment to respond. If you feel this message reaching something deep within you, if you sense that this is more than coincidence, then type, I am listening. Not as a routine action, but as a declaration. A decision to step out of doubt and into awareness. A signal that you are choosing trust over fear. Because your agreement matters. Heaven does not override your voice, it responds to it. And there is something else you need to understand. The same presence that has been protecting you, has also been observing everything connected to you. Every intention. Every hesitation. Every hidden influence surrounding the person tied to your path. Nothing has gone unnoticed. Nothing has slipped through unseen. Which means what is unfolding now is not random. It is measured. It is intentional. It is precise. You are not dealing with coincidence, you are stepping into consequence, into the results of decisions that were made under pressure, under influence, and under spiritual observation. And this is why you are being called to trust now more than ever. Because what is about to be revealed next, is not just about what they chose, but about what was happening around them while they were choosing. There were forces at work. Voices they didn't even recognize. Pressures they couldn't fully explain. And in the next part, you're going to see clearly what was really happening behind the scenes, and why this was never just a personal decision, but something much deeper unfolding in the unseen. Now as you begin to understand the weight of what was set in motion, you must also understand the environment surrounding it. Because this connection was never operating in isolation. It was surrounded, influenced, and at times even challenged by forces you could not see. My beloved, there were whispers not spoken aloud, subtle nudges that did not originate from truth, and quiet distortions that made clarity feel distant. This is what happens when something carries value. It attracts attention. Not all of that attention is pure. There were energies of jealousy, comparison, and fear circling around what you shared. Not always through obvious people, but through attitudes, assumptions, and internal doubts that slowly wrap themselves like threads around the connection. Imagine cords being pulled gently at first, then tighter, creating tension where there once was ease. Conversations became complicated. Emotions felt heavier. What was once natural began to feel uncertain. This was not just misunderstanding. It was interference. And here is the deeper truth you are now ready to see. There were two paths forming at the same time. The old path was familiar. It was built on fear, avoidance, ego, and self-protection. It whispered, "Stay guarded. Do not risk. Walk away before you are hurt." The new path was different. It required truth, vulnerability, growth, and alignment. It whispered, "Step forward. Choose what is real. Become more than who you have been." Both paths were present, and the person connected to you could feel them. But here is where the tension increased. The interference did not just create confusion. It amplified the old path. It made fear sound logical. It made distance seem wise. It made hesitation feel safe. And at the same time, the truth of the connection kept rising. It could not be silenced. It kept pulling, gently but persistently, towards something deeper. This created a battle within them. A push between what was comfortable and what was calling them higher. A struggle between staying the same and stepping into transformation. And you felt the effects of this. The inconsistency. The mixed signals. The moments of closeness followed by distance. That was not random. That was the battle showing itself through behavior. Now here is your clarity. It was never about your worth. It was about which path they would choose. And as this tension reached its peak, something shifted. The whispers grew louder. The pressure became undeniable. The space between the two paths began to close. They could no longer remain in between. They could no longer delay. A decision had to be made. Not later. Not someday. But in that exact moment. And this is where everything intensified. Because what happens when someone is forced to choose between fear and truth reveals who they truly are. My beloved, you are about to see what they chose. But before that is revealed, you need to understand just how intense that moment became. Because in the next part, you will witness the exact point where the pressure turned into a final choice, and why there was no turning back after it. This was the moment where everything converged, where unseen forces, internal fears, and undeniable truth collided at once. The weight of the decision pressed in from every direction, leaving no space for illusion to survive. The old path demanded retreat, offering comfort without growth, familiarity without fulfillment. The new path demanded courage, asking for trust, honesty, and surrender to something greater than fear. And in that sacred tension, the truth could no longer be ignored. It rose above every doubt, every external voice, every shadow that tried to obscure it. That is why this choice was not ordinary. It was decisive. It was defining. It was the turning point you have been feeling approaching. And now, everything that follows flows from what was chosen in that single moment. Get ready for what comes. Now you've seen the pressure, you've felt the tension building, and this is where everything converged. This is the moment where delay could no longer exist, where hesitation lost its hiding place, and where the truth demanded to be faced. Because there comes a point in every divinely aligned connection where a choice must be made. Not a half choice. Not a temporary decision. But a defining moment that separates the old life from the new. My beloved, this was that moment. They stood at a spiritual crossroads, and it was not subtle. It was not gentle. It was undeniable. On one side was the path of losing you completely, walking away, choosing distance, returning to what felt safe but empty. A path of isolation disguised as peace. A path where nothing would challenge them, but nothing would grow. On the other side was you. But not just you as a person, you as a calling, as alignment, as a mirror of the life they were being invited into. A path that required commitment, honesty, transformation. A path that could lead to union, to something sacred, something lasting. A path that would change them. Do you see the weight of this now? This was never about casual feelings. This was about identity. About whether they would remain who they had always been, or step into who they were meant to become. And here is the contrast you must hold on to. The old path whispered comfort, but carried stagnation. It promised safety, but delivered emptiness. The new path demanded courage, but carried purpose. It required surrender, but offered fulfillment. And they could feel both. That is why the delay stretched as long as it did. Because transformation always resists at first. Fear always speaks louder before it loses its hold. Ego always fights hardest before it releases control. But this time, something was different. They could not go back to not knowing. They could not unfeel what had been revealed. The truth of the connection had already rooted itself too deeply. And this is where the choice became unavoidable. My beloved, lean in right here, because this is the turning point. This is where everything either breaks, or becomes something greater than it has ever been. They had to decide. To forget you, or to step forward and claim you. To retreat into fear, or to rise into alignment. To choose the old version of themselves, or to become new. And I want you to feel this, not just hear it. This was not easy for them. There were voices, internal and external, pulling them back. Reminding them of past failures, past pain, past disappointments. Telling them it was too risky, too uncertain, too much. But there was another voice. Quieter, but stronger. Calling them forward. Reminding them of truth. Of connection. Of what they felt when they were aligned with you, not running from it. And in that sacred tension, they stood between two realities. One where they would lose you forever. One where they would step into something that could change both of your lives. This is the moment that defines everything. If you are ready to stand in alignment with truth, even when it feels uncertain, type, "I choose trust over fear," in the comments. Let that be your declaration, your agreement with what is unfolding. Because your energy matters here. And now, here comes the part no one expected. Because when the pressure reached its peak, when the choice could no longer be delayed, when everything in them was forced to respond, they made a decision. And what they chose, it didn't follow the pattern anyone thought it would. Now you've reached the moment everything was leading toward, the point where silence breaks, where pressure gives way to action, and where what was hidden begins to reveal itself. But before you rush ahead, take a breath, because what they chose did not follow the pattern you were expecting. It didn't follow fear. It didn't follow the version of them you thought you had already understood. My beloved, this is where the story shifts. When the weight of that decision pressed fully upon them, when every voice, every fear, every memory rose up at once, something inside them did not collapse the way it had before. This time, something held. And that is what stunned everything around them. Because all logic said they would retreat. All past behavior suggested they would choose distance. Every sign from before pointed toward them protecting themselves by letting you go. But they didn't move the way fear expected. They paused. And in that pause, something deeper surfaced. Not panic. Not avoidance. But awareness. It was as if, for the first time, they could see clearly, not just the risk, not just the uncertainty, but the value. The truth of what was in front of them. The reality of what losing you would actually mean, not just in the moment, but long after. And here is where it becomes unexpected. They didn't immediately run toward the old path. They didn't shut down, disappear, or detach the way they had in the past. The reaction everyone anticipated did not happen. Instead, there was a shift. Subtle, but undeniable. A breaking of a pattern that had held them for so long. Now listen carefully, because this is the part most people misunderstand. The decision was not loud. It was not dramatic. It did not come with instant declarations or visible changes that everyone could see right away. That's why it confused those who were watching from the outside. But inside them, something had already been decided. And that decision did not align with fear. It aligned with truth. My beloved, do you feel that? Because even now, you may not have seen the full evidence yet. You may still be looking for confirmation in the physical, wondering, if they chose differently, where is it? Why hasn't it fully shown up? This is where hope begins to rise, but it must be grounded in understanding. Because what they chose was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a process. A turning inward before a stepping forward. A quiet realignment before visible action. And this is why it surprised everyone. Because people expected an immediate reaction, a predictable outcome based on who they used to be. But what unfolded instead was internal transformation first. And transformation does not always announce itself. It develops. It settles. It reshapes everything from within before it becomes visible on the outside. So while others may still be assuming they chose the old path, while circumstances may not yet fully reflect the shift, something deeper has already changed direction. That is the unexpected outcome. Not that everything instantly fell into place. But that they did not fall back. And that matters more than you realize. Because once someone breaks a pattern like that, once they choose truth over fear even in a single moment, it alters the trajectory of everything that follows. But my beloved, do not rush to celebrate just yet. Because what comes after the decision is just as important as the decision itself. There are still layers to unfold. There are still forces responding to what was chosen. There are still steps that must take place before this becomes fully visible in your reality. And in the next part, you're going to understand why they came so close to losing you completely, and what nearly caused this entire connection to slip away for good. Now that you understand their decision began to shift internally, you need to see the other side of this truth, the part that explains why things almost ended completely. Because my beloved, there was a moment, a very real moment, where this connection stood on the edge of disappearing for good. And it wasn't because you weren't enough. It wasn't because the connection lacked depth. It was because of everything that stood in the way of them recognizing it in time. Delays were not just about timing, they were about resistance. Resistance to growth. Resistance to accountability. Resistance to stepping into a version of themselves that required more than comfort. They stayed too long in the familiar. Too long in patterns that felt safe but kept them small. And while you were evolving, while you were learning, healing, becoming more aware, they were hesitating. Not because they didn't feel the connection, but because they didn't yet know how to rise to meet it. This is where pride entered. Not always obvious, not always loud, but present. Pride told them they needed control. Pride told them not to appear vulnerable. Pride whispered that walking away would preserve their image, protect their ego, and keep them from facing their own limitations. And then came distractions. Things that pulled their focus away from what truly mattered. Other voices, other priorities, other temporary attachments that seemed easier to manage than something real and transformative. All of it combined into a dangerous delay. Because while they were navigating those distractions, something else was happening quietly. You were reaching your limit. You were growing tired of the inconsistency. Tired of questioning your value. Tired of carrying emotional weight that was not yours to carry alone. And this is the part that must be spoken clearly. You were not wrong for feeling that way. You were not impatient. You were not asking for too much. You were responding to imbalance. My beloved, you were standing in truth, even when it hurt. And there was a moment, whether you fully acted on it or not, where your spirit began to detach. Where something inside you said, I cannot stay here if this does not align. That moment was real. And it nearly closed the door completely. Because if they had delayed just a little longer, if they had continued choosing distraction, ego, or fear, the window would have closed. Not out of punishment, but out of protection for you. This is why it came so close to being lost. Not because the connection wasn't real, but because timing matters when truth is revealed. And here is where your power returns. You did not lose yourself trying to hold on to something uncertain. You grew. You became more aware of your worth, more grounded in your standards, more aligned with what you truly deserve. Even in the waiting, even in the confusion, you were being refined. So let this rise within you now, if you know, deep in your spirit, that you have grown beyond what once hurt you. Type, I know my worth. Because that shift in you is what changed everything. That is what made it impossible for things to continue the way they were. And that is why, just as it nearly slipped away, something else began to happen. Something faster. Something unexpected. Because once the breaking point is reached, once the old patterns can no longer hold, movement begins. And in the next part, you're going to see how everything that once felt delayed is now preparing to accelerate in ways you didn't see coming. Now that you've seen how close this came to being lost, you can understand why what is happening now feels different. The tension has shifted. The pressure has changed. And this is where fear must release its grip, because something powerful has already been activated around you. My beloved, you are not exposed. You are not vulnerable in the way you think. You are covered. There is a divine shielding that has moved into place, not suddenly, but precisely, at the moment it was needed most. Where there was once interference, there is now resistance against it. Where there were open spaces for confusion to enter, there are now boundaries being set in the unseen. Picture this clearly. A sword of light cutting through every lingering cord that was never meant to remain attached to you. Threads of doubt, fear, and misplaced emotional weight being severed one by one. Not violently, but intentionally. Cleanly. Completely. Because what is not aligned with your peace cannot stay connected to your energy. And surrounding you now is a shield. Not fragile. Not temporary. But steady, radiant, and unmoving. This shield does not just block what is harmful, it filters what is allowed to reach you. It stands between you and the confusion that once drained you. It guards your clarity. It protects your growth. This is the difference you are beginning to feel. Before, everything reached you. Every inconsistency affected you. Every delay unsettled you. But now, there is space between you and what tries to disrupt you. That space is protection. And here is what you must understand. This protection is not only about you, it is also affecting the connection itself. Anything that was influencing them in a way that distorted truth is losing its access. The voices that once amplified fear are being quieted. The distractions that once pulled them away are losing their hold. Not all at once, but steadily. Because when divine protection is activated, it does not just defend, it realigns. This is why you may feel a strange calm where there once was anxiety. A stillness where there once was overthinking. That is not disconnection. That is safety. My beloved, you are being repositioned into a space where what is meant for you can reach you without distortion. And anything that cannot align with that will not pass through. This is where the gates are sealed. Not to keep blessings out, but to ensure that what enters is pure, intentional, and aligned with your highest good. No more half-truths. No more mixed signals. No more energy that leaves you questioning your value. Only what honors you will be allowed forward. And this is why you must not return to fear. Because fear belongs to the old space. Fear belonged to the time when everything was uncertain, when nothing was protected, when you felt exposed to outcomes you could not control. But you are not there anymore. You are here. In a space where you are guarded, guided, and held. Let that truth settle into you. Because what comes next is not just protection, it is alignment beginning to take form. And in the next part, you're going to recognize the signs that this shift is already unfolding around you, quietly at first, but unmistakably real. Now that you understand the protection surrounding you, the next thing you must recognize is this: alignment never arrives without signs. It does not rush in chaotically. It unfolds in a sequence, a pattern that prepares you before anything becomes fully visible. So if you've been asking, how will I know? My beloved, this is how. The first sign is not external. It is internal. Before anything changes around you, something shifts within you. A calm begins to settle where anxiety once lived. The constant questioning starts to fade. You find yourself no longer chasing clarity, because clarity is quietly forming inside you. This peace does not come from answers, it comes from alignment. And this is where many miss it. They are waiting for messages, for movement, for visible proof, but the first confirmation is always this stillness. A grounded feeling that something is different, even if nothing has changed yet. That is your spirit recognizing safety. Now here is your microhook. Do not overlook this next phase, because it often comes so subtly that people dismiss it. After the peace, come the confirmations. Small at first. Repeated numbers that catch your attention at unexpected moments. A message that arrives just when you were thinking about them. A conversation, a song, a phrase that mirrors exactly what you've been feeling internally. These are not coincidences. They are alignment signals. Not meant to overwhelm you, but to gently reassure you that movement is happening behind the scenes. That what shifted internally is beginning to echo externally. And then comes the third phase. This is where things become visible. Changes in behavior. Unexpected communication. A shift in energy that you can no longer question or explain away. What once felt stuck begins to move. What once felt distant begins to come closer. But listen carefully, this does not happen randomly. It follows the order. Peace first. Confirmation second. Change third. If you try to reverse it, you will return to confusion. But if you trust the sequence, you will stay grounded as it unfolds. My beloved, where are you in this right now? Have you felt the peace, even for a moment? Have you started noticing the small confirmations appearing around you? If you have, type "I see it" in the comments. Not as a habit, but as recognition. As awareness that you are already within the shift, not waiting outside of it. Because this is important. You are not chasing something that hasn't started. You are witnessing something that has already begun. And this is why your role now is not to force, not to overanalyze, not to rush ahead, but to remain aligned with what is unfolding step by step. Because each phase prepares you for the next. The peace prepares your heart. The confirmation strengthens your trust. And the visible change reveals the truth. But my beloved, even as these signs appear, there is something deeper happening beneath them. Because not every connection remains the same once alignment begins. Not every person stays. Not every path continues unchanged. And in the next part, you're going to understand how this shift affects the relationship itself, whether it leads to separation, return, or something entirely new taking form. Now that you've begun to recognize the signs, you must understand what they are leading toward, because alignment does not leave relationships unchanged. It transforms them, refines them, or, in some cases, releases them altogether. My beloved, this is where anxiety tries to return. This is where the mind asks, what will happen next? Will they come back? Will this finally work? Or will I lose this completely? But listen closely, this moment is not about control. It is about alignment. Because when alignment takes hold, the relationship cannot return to what it used to be. The old version, the one built on confusion, inconsistency, imbalance, that version cannot survive in this new space. It must either evolve, or fall away. There are three paths that can unfold here, and each one carries purpose. The first is temporary separation. Not as rejection, but as refinement. A space where both of you are pulled apart just long enough for clarity to fully form. Where emotions settle, perspectives shift, and the noise that once clouded the connection begins to fade. This kind of distance is not empty. It is active. It is where unseen adjustments are made so that what returns stronger, clearer, and more grounded than before. The second path is sudden return. This is where the shift you've been feeling moves quickly into the physical. Communication opens. Walls lower. What once felt blocked becomes accessible again. And it may feel sudden, almost unexpected, as if something changed overnight. But it didn't happen overnight. It was building beneath the surface, through every phase you've already moved through. And the third path is renewal. This is deeper than return. This is where the connection is no longer what it was, it becomes something entirely new. More honest. More stable. More aligned with truth rather than fear. It carries a different energy, one that feels grounded instead of uncertain. Now here is the truth you must hold on to. You do not decide which path happens through force. You align with it through surrender. Because what is truly meant for you will meet you in alignment, not in control, not in pressure, not in fear. And this is where your power becomes clear. Your role is not to chase the outcome. Your role is to remain in the version of yourself that has already grown beyond the old patterns. Because the old version of this relationship required you to question, to wait, to overgive. The new version, if it continues, requires you to stand in truth, to receive, and to remain steady in your worth. That is the shift. Old energy asks, how do I keep this? New energy says, what is aligned will remain. My beloved, feel the difference in that. Because as you stand in this space, something begins to reveal itself. Not everyone can come forward with you. Not every connection can survive alignment. And this is not loss, it is clarity. So release the need to control the outcome. Release the need to predict which path will unfold. Because whatever is aligned with your truth will move toward you, and whatever is not will naturally fall away. And in the next part, you're going to understand exactly who or what is being removed from your life right now, and why that removal is not punishment, but necessary protection for what is coming next. Now that you understand the relationship itself is shifting, you must also understand this truth. Alignment is not only about what stays, it is also about what must be removed. And this is the part that can feel the most uncomfortable, because it often looks like loss before it reveals itself as protection. My beloved, not everything that walked with you was meant to arrive with you. There are people, patterns, and energies that were allowed for a season, but not for your next level. And as alignment begins to take hold, those things cannot remain where they once were. This is not rejection. This is refinement. Picture a tree being pruned. Branches that once grew freely are carefully cut back, not because they were worthless, but because they were no longer aligned with the health of the whole. If they remained, they would drain life instead of supporting it. That is what is happening now. Some connections may feel distant. Some conversations may fade. Some habits that once felt normal may no longer feel right to you. And at first, it may bring a sense of confusion, even grief. Because release, even when necessary, still requires letting go. But hear this clearly, what is leaving is not being taken from you to harm you. It is being removed to protect you. There were influences that slowed your growth. Attachments that kept you tied to versions of yourself you have already outgrown. Energies that thrived in confusion, in imbalance, in uncertainty. And those things cannot exist in the space you are entering. This is why the doors are closing. Not all at once, but deliberately. You may notice certain paths no longer opening the way they used to. Opportunities that once seemed possible may now feel blocked. People who once had access to you may no longer reach you in the same way. This is not stagnation. This is divine redirection. Because every closed door is making space for a door that aligns with who you are becoming, not who you used to be. My beloved, I know this part can feel heavy. There is a natural desire to hold on, to question, to wonder if something could have been done differently. But this is where acceptance begins to replace resistance. You are not losing what is meant for you. You are being separated from what is not. And there is peace in that truth, even if it arrives slowly. Allow yourself to release without resentment. Allow yourself to trust without needing full explanation. Because what is aligned does not need to be forced to stay. And what is not aligned cannot be forced to remain. This is the balance you are stepping into. And as this clearing continues, something else is quietly being prepared. Not just space, but invitation. Because removal is never the final step. It is preparation for arrival. Something new is being positioned. Something that does not carry the confusion, the delay, or the imbalance of what came before. Something that meets you where you are now, not where you used to be. So do not focus only on what is leaving. Lift your awareness to what is being made possible. Because in the next part, you're going to see how everything begins to accelerate, how alignment shifts from preparation into movement, and how what is meant for you starts coming forward faster than you expected. Now that the clearing has taken place, now that what no longer belongs has begun to fall away, you are stepping into a phase that feels completely different from everything that came before. This is where waiting turns into movement, where stillness gives way to momentum, and where what once felt delayed begins to accelerate. My beloved, this is the breakthrough phase. And it does not arrive quietly. After all the time you spent in uncertainty, after the slow unfolding, the questioning, the internal shifts, something changes. The same path that once felt blocked begins to open. The same situation that once felt stagnant begins to move. This is not coincidence. This is alignment activating. Where there was once confusion, there is now clarity. You begin to understand without forcing answers. You begin to feel steady without needing constant reassurance. The emotional instability that once surrounded the connection begins to settle into something grounded, something real. And here is where you must notice the contrast. Before, everything required effort. You had to analyze, to question, to hold things together in your mind just to make sense of it. It felt like pushing against resistance, like trying to move forward while something unseen held you back. But now, movement feels natural. Communication begins to open, whether through words, actions, or energy. Things that once felt complicated begin to simplify. What once required patience begins to respond with progress. This is acceleration. Not chaotic, not overwhelming, but aligned. It moves with purpose. And this is why it may feel almost surprising to you. Because after so much waiting, part of you became used to delay. Part of you adapted to stillness. So when things begin to shift, it can feel unfamiliar. But do not question it. Do not slow it down with doubt. Because this is what you have been prepared for. My beloved, this is the moment where trust becomes action. Where everything you have learned, everything you have grown through, begins to reflect back to you through your reality. You are no longer standing at the edge, wondering if something will happen. You are inside the movement. So let this rise within you now. If you are ready to receive what is aligned with your growth, type, I receive alignment. Let it be more than words. Let it be agreement with the acceleration unfolding in your life. Because this is important. Acceleration does not come to pull you back into old patterns. It comes to carry you forward into something new. And as this movement continues, you will notice something else. The connection, the opportunities, the energy around you, they begin to match your level of clarity. They begin to meet you where you are now, not where you used to be. This is alignment in motion. And it will not look like the past. It will feel different. Stronger. More stable. More honest. But my beloved, as powerful as this phase is, there is one final step that anchors it all. Because movement without grounding can still leave questions. And in the next part, we are going to seal this message over your life, with a covering, a blessing, and a clarity that carries this alignment forward with you. Now you have seen the journey from uncertainty into clarity, from delay into movement, and from confusion into alignment. This is where everything comes together, not as a question, not as a possibility, but as a moment to anchor what has been revealed over your life. My beloved, this is your closing seal. This is where you stop striving and begin receiving. So right now, wherever you are, allow yourself to become still. Not in fear, not in hesitation, but in trust. Because what has been spoken is not meant to leave you wondering, it is meant to settle into you as truth. Let this blessing rest over you. May every place in your life that once carried confusion now be filled with clarity. May every delay that once caused doubt now reveal its purpose. And may every connection that is meant for you rise into alignment without force, without struggle, and without fear. May you be surrounded by protection that does not break, that does not weaken, that stands with you in every moment, seen and unseen. May every negative influence, every lingering doubt, every hidden interference lose its hold completely, leaving no trace behind. May your heart be steady. May your mind be clear. May your spirit be at peace. And may you walk forward knowing that what is meant for you cannot miss you. My beloved, release the need to control what comes next. Release the timelines, the expectations, the pressure to understand every detail before it unfolds. Because what is aligned does not require your fear to sustain it. It requires your trust. So choose that now. Choose to trust what you cannot yet fully see. Choose to stand in the knowing that what has been delayed is not denied, and what has been protected is now prepared to arrive. And as you move forward from this moment, carry this truth with you: nothing that tried to confuse you has power over you anymore. Nothing that once slowed you can continue to hold you back. You are no longer in that space. You have moved. You have shifted. You are aligned. Take a breath and feel that. Because this is not just an ending, it is a beginning that carries peace instead of pressure, clarity instead of confusion, and movement instead of waiting. If this message has resonated with you, if you feel that shift within your spirit, then stay connected. Subscribe, not just to watch, but to remain in alignment with what is unfolding. And if you know someone who needs this breakthrough, share this message so it can reach them at the exact moment they are meant to receive it. You are not alone in this. You are guided. You are protected. And you are exactly where you need to be. Now go forward in peace, in trust, and in alignment, because everything that comes next will reflect what has already been set into motion.